Please appreciate this presentation has been prepared with all sincerity and to the best of knowledge of students, teachers, and volunteers. We welcome words of encouragement and also suggestions for improvement. For use in academics or any kind of exams, please verify and correlate with your course books. For becoming an associate and/or sending contributions in different subjects including storytelling, please get in touch with your brief profile at baskenjoy@gmail.com. So welcome back everyone. Today will be the first of many fun general biology science lectures, and in today's short lecture we'll be looking at the limits of life, a venture into the extremes when we'll be looking at the extreme life forms present here on Earth. So what do you even classify as extreme? Like what is extreme? At what level do you have to cross for something to become extreme? So some environment is extreme if it's nearly impossible for carbon-based life forms to exist there. So for example, if we take heat, temperature, anything above 60 degrees Celsius, it's considered extreme. Anything below 13.7 degrees Celsius, it's considered extreme. Anything with a pH greater than 8.5 or a pH less than 7.0 is considered extreme. Now all these values, these extreme values, have been chosen by looking at a variety of life forms on Earth, and most of them fall into this category. Most of them are below 60 degrees Celsius, most of them are above 13.7 degrees Celsius. Most of the life forms on Earth are between the pH 8.5 and 7. However, we have some extreme life forms which can go above and beyond, and they can withstand various environments. Now these such animals, cells, bacteria, whatever you want to call them, these are known as extremophiles, and they live in extreme environments. So firstly, we'll be looking at hot temperatures, feel the heat. So we have two bacteria. There is Pyrococcus furiosus, sorry about my pronunciation, and then we have Pyrobulus fumari. So they majorly live in hydrothermal vents. If you don't know what are hydrothermal vents, they're basically vents from which hot air is coming out on the ocean floor. Like you can search it up online. They're like, and then I think you would get to know just by looking at a few pics. They're basically these mini volcanoes present on the ocean bed, on the ocean floor, from which hot steam gas is coming out. And then these two organisms, they thrive, like they're the best when they live in the temperatures 100 degrees Celsius to 121 degrees Celsius. Now if you go back, you will see that anything above 60 degrees Celsius is considered extreme, and these organisms can live from all the way from 100 degrees Celsius to 121 degrees Celsius. Next up, we have the lowest temperatures which an organism can survive and thrive in: ice in their veins. Now we have the Synechoccus lividus. So they thrive basically in any temperature from -20 degrees Celsius to -25 degrees Celsius. Now the limit was, I believe, 13.7 degrees Celsius. Anything below that is considered extreme, and these go above and beyond. They can thrive up to -25 degrees Celsius, and they live in ice, these bacteria. Next up, we have, on the basis of the pH level in which they live in, we have Vibrio. We have two examples in this one. We have Vibrio and we have Psychrobacter. So they basically live in soda lakes, and if you don't know what are soda lakes, they're basically, a soda lake is a lake which is really alkaline in nature. Its pH is really high. That's a soda lake. I also have an image over here. And then Vibrio and Psychrobacter, they live in environments where the pH is greater than 11. So then they really go above and beyond. Somehow they can survive in such an alkaline medium. And however, see, up till now we were talking about extremophiles. Extremophiles, they're only extreme in one single category. Like we had bacteria which live in really hot weather. We had bacteria which were in cold weather, in alkaline, but they were only masters in that field. Like they can only survive hot temperatures. If you put that bacteria in a really cold environment, it will die. It can't handle multiple extremes. However, there are very few organisms. They are called polyextremophiles, and they can basically survive in any environment. They are polyextremophiles are extremophiles in multiple criteria. Like we polyextremophiles, you can have one which can survive the heat. Sorry, you can have a polyextremophile which survives both the heat and the cold. You can have a polyextremophile which can survive high pressure and heat. You can have a polyextremophile which can handle acidic and radiation. We can have a polyextremophile which can handle alkaline and radiation. So there are basically infinite number of combinations, and they're really rare. These polyextremophiles are really rare, and they can, and we will be only looking at one type of uh, one subcategory in which polyextremophiles exist, and this one is radiation. So these polyextremophiles over here, Deinococcus radiodurans, Thermococcus gamma-tolerans, and Rubrobacter, these three organisms right here, they can withstand UV radiation, cosmic rays, X-rays, and radioactive decay. Now this is why they are polyextremophiles. They can withstand multiple extremes. They can withstand extremes in UV radiation, extremes in cosmic rays, X-rays, and radioactive decay. So if you're wondering what are cosmic rays, they're basically highly energized atomic nuclei moving in outer space at nearly the speed of light. So basically, you can think of them as solar winds in a way, but they're not technically solar winds. Like they're basically really highly energized atomic nuclei moving at really fast speeds in the uh, in the in outer space. Now, you might know that we have the ozone layer, everything to protect the Earth, but some radiation still seeps in through various areas. Like we have the ozone hole from which high amounts of UV radiation can escape in. Similarly, we have various patches, we have various holes on the Earth's surface in the Earth's atmosphere where these rays can seep through, and that's where these organisms thrive in these harsh and extreme environments. So, in the end, why does all this matter? Like, why is it good to know about these extremophiles and polyextremophiles? How does it matter? So, these extremophiles and polyextremophiles are constantly under research, under intense research. Scientists are trying to find out how the enzymes they produce are functionable in those extreme conditions. So scientists are basically doing a bunch of tests, they're just running experiments, and they're wondering and trying to figure out how the enzymes, how the proteins and everything these bacteria and cells produce, in how are these proteins even functionable in such extreme environments? How can carbon-based life even function in such extreme environments? The study of these organisms widens our perspective of the parameters of life in general. Like with this, we can widen our scope of life. Like if they are doing something which we never knew before, then we can learn, and then we know. And this also takes us to the next point, that understanding the limits of life on Earth provides scientists with information about the possible existence of extraterrestrial life. So basically, up till now, we have been looking at a few criteria only when we try to look for extraterrestrial life. We only look at if there's water, if there's oxygen, if there's carbon dioxide. We look at these factors. However, by studying these organisms, these extremophiles and polyextremophiles, we might get to learn something more, something new on which life can depend on, and then with that we can widen our scope of finding extraterrestrial life. We can add another criteria, and then maybe even the chances of finding life can increase. And research also proves clues about where and how to search life on other solar bodies. Like for example, if these organisms don't depend on carbon. They depend on, let's suppose, sulfur, for example. I'm just taking an example. They depend on sulfur instead of carbon. Then scientists don't only look for carbon in outer space. They also know that there's some planets which are high in sulfur quantity, and then they can try looking there for life forms similar to these extreme life forms present on Earth. Now I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again next time.